So besides the food, another aspect that you guys don't see in your Hollywood movies are the medications that we have to take while we're serving over there. Now, before we go to countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, Turkey, Kyrgyzstan, we have to take a lot of medication to be ready to serve out there. So obviously we had to take some immunization shots, but we also need to take some medication prior, during our time there, and after our return from our tour. Now, one of the pills that we had to take was called mefloquine. And this pill was to help prevent malaria. Now let me tell you a little bit about my experiences with mefloquine. Now when I first started taking it, I didn't really feel anything, but the pill was mandatory and they kind of put it to me like this. They said, look Diaz, malaria can make you poop your guts out, literally. So let me explain what happened. So our living quarters were tight. Obviously in that situation, I'm always gonna get the worst of everything. But it's okay, that's the way the totem pole goes. But I started overhearing some of my coworkers talk about certain nightmares that they were having. And me, I wasn't having nightmares at the time. And also as a teenager or growing up, I wasn't the type to suffer from nightmares or having problems with my sleep. Or obviously, like I mentioned, I never hallucinated and I wasn't paranoid. So I started asking my coworkers about how they felt and what the pill was actually doing to them. And they were telling me that they were just having realistic nightmares. So I went to my bosses who had the medical background and I was asking them, hey man, what's up with this pill that we're taking? What's going on, Planet S.O.N family? It's your main man JD. For those of you who don't know, I was in the military for 10 years and here's a random story from my time in the military. So I started asking my coworkers about how they felt and what the pill was actually doing to them. And they were telling me that they were just having realistic nightmares. So I went to my bosses who had the medical background and I was asking them, hey man, what's up with this pill that we're taking? Because all together, we would remind ourselves to take the pill every Monday. We'll pop them every week on Monday to just make sure that we're staying healthy and also taking our medication. So my bosses were telling me that a side effect from mefloquine was that you have realistic nightmares. And I was like, what do you mean? Like Freddy Krueger or something like that? Like, I mean, I don't know. Because like I said, I had a little naive 19-year-old mindset. So obviously I needed them to explain and elaborate a little bit more. So they were just saying, look, the pill messes with your liver. So while you're sleeping, the pill is actually working, but it's attacking your liver. So your liver makes you have nightmares. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. If you want to tell me what's going on in the comments, you go ahead. Please elaborate a little bit more so everybody can understand. But as of now, I'm just explaining what I know. So I didn't really believe it at first, but it started hitting me. So I started having these realistic, crazy dreams. But the difference between a regular nightmare and the nightmares that we were having over there is that whatever you're dreaming about, you actually physically feel it. So let me give you an example of one of my dreams. So one of the nightmares that I can remember was that I had an M16 and I was running towards the enemy. However, the enemy had a sword. And as I was running to him, he actually swung his sword and chopped off my legs at my knees. Now, right when he swung the sword and I noticed that he cut off my legs, I woke up from my nightmare and I was just screaming and I was just feeling my legs because they actually hurt. Yes, I was actually feeling the pain of somebody actually chopping off my legs. Can y'all believe that? This pill was crazy. So after a few times of waking up screaming, I couldn't comprehend what the hell was going on. I started to get scared for myself. I started to get scared for the people around me. Because first of all, we're in Afghanistan. At any moment, you could die. Also, we sleep with our weapons. So at the time, I was issued an M16 and the M16 slept right next to me. So as the nightmares continued, and obviously I couldn't comprehend what was going on. Yes, I understood that it was a side effect of the pill that we were taking, but come on, that was really hard to deal with. So after a few nightmares that I knew everybody else was having, I started talking to my supervisor who had the medical background. And I was explaining to him like, yo Sarge, like I really feel like I'm tripping. Like since I'm actually feeling the pain that I'm feeling in my crazy nightmares, I don't know if I'm gonna end up sleepwalking and harming myself or harming anybody else, so I'm really tripping. So my boss started asking me a few questions, but he was just a cool dude, so that's why I felt comfortable just talking to him about it. And he was just telling me about how he's experiencing the same thing. And obviously, like I just mentioned, everybody else is experiencing the same thing. But it's obviously on how you handle it. So obviously the suicidal thoughts started happening. Because first of all, in reality, we're in a war zone and we could die. Now I'm trying to go to sleep and my limbs are getting chopped off in my dreams. So literally death was around me whether I slept or whether I was awake. And it was just a crazy feeling because, you know, the depression, the anxiety, the paranoia, I didn't hallucinate. However, those dreams were really vivid. And yes, even though I knew they were nightmares, the fact that you could actually feel the pain from those nightmares was just crazy to me. So I started talking to my boss. I was like, look boss, obviously we have to take these pills. Because like I mentioned, I'm not trying to poop my guts out. So yes, we have to deal with the nightmares, but there has to be an alternative. So since I was just scared to go to sleep because like I mentioned, I didn't want to start sleepwalking and then, I don't know, something crazy might happen. So a solution that I thought would help me was to have my boss hold my weapon for me as I slept. I just felt more comfortable not knowing where my weapon was as I slept and going through the nightmares. So my boss agreed. He was like, yeah, man, there's no problem. Just obviously when you wake up, just grab your weapon and we're all good to go. And I'm just happy that my boss understood because like I said, we're talking about a little 19-year-old kid who's stuck in a war zone and who's never been through all this stuff, trying to comprehend everything of what's going on while he's awake and during the time where I'm asleep. So the first couple of nights, during the first couple of weeks, as I was dealing with the nightmares, I would just give my weapon to my boss right before I went to sleep. And obviously, like I mentioned, as soon as I wake up, I get ready, take my gun, and we're good to go off to work. Now, I ended up just getting tired of the pill. I got tired of the nightmares. I got tired of just everything. And obviously, you want to stay sane out there because you're living there 24/7. And obviously, you're just trying to find the best ways to stay sane while you're in a war zone. But I'm over here going crazy with this damn medication. So in the military, one of the toughest things to do is try to seek medical attention. Look, I got no affiliations with the military right now, and I don't care if anybody active right now gets mad at what I'm saying, but hey, it's the truth. Now, if you complain about anything medical wise while you're in the military, it's highly frowned upon. It's also highly frowned upon to go to medical and seek help when you're sick. You're always expected to be 100% every single day. And Lord forbid you catch the flu, Lord forbid you catch a cold, Lord forbid anything happens to you, you're gonna either get in trouble or people are gonna get mad at you just because you go to medical. Yes, that's the way it is. But hey, it's in the contract. You're a military member 24 hours a day. Obviously, a lot of people haven't been drafted in years, so you can't really complain of what you're going through because you're the one who signed that contract. So I started asking my bosses, I was like, hey, is there an alternative to this pill? Can I take something else? Obviously, I don't want to poop my guts out, but I want to stop having nightmares. So they told me, yes, there's an alternative pill that we could take. However, instead of being a weekly pill, it's a daily pill. And they have different side effects than what we're going through with the mefloquine. So I was like, bet, I don't care about any side effect. I just don't want to have nightmares anymore. So they said, all right, man, go to medical, see what's up, and see if they don't kick you out of the clinic. I went in there, I made the appointment because I really just wanted to switch out my pill. So as you go through the motions with medical, no matter what, if it's more beneficial for the military to give you one thing than give you the more expensive alternate thing, obviously you're going to get the cheaper stuff. And if you're trying to get the more expensive alternative thing, you're going to get the medical staff pushing back, talking crap, and they're going to start yelling at you. They're just going to tell you to suck it up, be an adult, and obviously they're going to use their rank to intimidate you. But for my people in the military right now, what has helped me that I had to learn by myself was that when you go into a hostile environment of the medical clinic in the military and they're not trying to help you for anything, you have the patient's advocate. Now, their pictures are posted on the wall on purpose. However, like I said, with intimidation and a lot of pushback, no one is going to let you know anything about them. So as I walked into the clinic, a sergeant came up to me and she was like, what are you here for? You know, all up in my face, just trying to intimidate me with their rank. And I was like, ma'am, I just want to switch out my malaria medication. And obviously, like I mentioned, there was some pushback. Oh, well, we don't have nothing else. You have to just suck it up. Why do you want to switch it? And just basically giving me the third degree. So after me explaining myself and her just telling me how much of a baby I was, after all her intimidation and after all her little scare tactics, I was just listening to her, rolling my eyes, and just watching her like a pit bull stuck on a chain. Because obviously a pit bull on a chain can't do anything but bark. So after her little spiel, I was like, I want to talk to the patient's advocate. And fortunately, the patient's advocate was able to help me out. And he was actually a professional dude who actually treated me like I was an actual human being. So he was able to take me to see the doctor and obviously explain what I was going through. So I told the doctor, I was like, hey man, can you switch me off this medication? Because I'm tripping, like for real. Like, I can't sleep, I'm having nightmares, the depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, all that was happening. So he said there was another pill that I could take, and it's called doxycycline. So like I did with the mefloquine, let me also read verbatim what the internet says about the doxy. So with the doxy, according to healthline.com, some of the most common side effects are loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, a skin rash, hives, also temporary discoloring of adult teeth. I don't know, that's weird. But the number one side effect is sensitivity to the sun. Now, where are we at? We're in Afghanistan, exposed to the sun, and there's not a lot of shade out there. So obviously that could be a major problem, but I was willing to sacrifice my skin over feeling pain from a nightmare. So the only rule to the trade-off from the mefloquine to the doxy was that meflo is a once-a-week pill and the doxy is a daily pill. And man, I was the happiest man alive when the doctor said, okay, get off the mefloquine and get on the doxy. Fortunately, this was just a short period of the beginning of my tour, and the rest of the tour, I was able to ride out the doxy instead of being on the mefloquine the whole entire time. However, I did learn methods of how to cover myself more. Like obviously I had to cover my face and my hands because they're the most exposed body parts to the sun. Now, even though I try my best to cover myself up and not expose my skin to the sun, because obviously the side effect of being sensitive to the sun, by the end of my tour, I was 3 shades of brown. It was funny because my shoulder was my regular skin color that I have now. My forearm was dark brown, but my hands were pitch black. They were like as black as my shirt. I was really dark. Now, as far as my face, I was always wearing a mask and I had my shades and a floppy hat. So my face wasn't as bad as my hands, but the skin on my head was darker than my chest and other body parts that are covered up. So after going through what I had to go through to get doxy during my second tour in Afghanistan, just to let you guys know, right when I got my orders, I went straight to the patient's advocate and got myself some doxy before they even mentioned mefloquine. That was at least something good about going through the process of getting doxy. Now, a question that always comes up when it comes to the doxy mefloquine thing, well, to avoid having military members suffer from nightmares, why don't they just issue everybody doxy? And the answer is, doxy is more expensive than mefloquine. Therefore, it's cheaper to keep you on these nightmare pills than have you sensitive to the sun. Now, the doxy is usually prescribed to pilots. As some of you may know, per rules of the FAA and certain flight rules, I guess you could say, is that pilots need at least 8 hours of sleep in order to fly the next day. Therefore, obviously they can't have mefloquine because if their sleep is compromised in any way, obviously with the nightmares, then they can't be fit to fight or fit to fly. So that's why doxy is usually prescribed to the pilots. And then to us, obviously, it's cheaper to give us mefloquine than the doxy. That's why we get mefloquine. So besides malaria, we also have different kind of diseases that we have to look out for and that sometimes we suffer with while we're on deployment during our tour. Major and common ones are obviously STDs. Technically, we're not allowed to have sex while we're over there, but people are going to be people and some people need to blow some steam and they gotta do what they gotta do, I guess. So obviously, there's cases of curable STDs, and also at the same time, people do contract HIV while we're out at war in Afghanistan. Now, besides those diseases, we also have tuberculosis. I know that a lot of people during my first tour, they ended up getting TB because of all the time that we'll spend with the locals. And since we're spending so much time with the local Afghanis, we obviously get to know these people. And then we end up becoming friends with a lot of people in town. So since they're becoming our friends and we're getting to know them, they will obviously like to share their stuff like their food, their teas, their drinks, and their entire culture with us. Because of that, I don't want to be disrespectful, but some of my friends did have like stomach worms just because of the stuff that they ate from the locals. And obviously they're not trying to do it maliciously, but our stomachs and our immune system, we're not used to what they're eating and what they're exposed to. So obviously we don't have all those defenses to the parasites and diseases that are over there. Now, one of the funniest things I always crack up about is when I heard that Afghanistan has wild monkeys. Now, they warn everybody, day one, they give you a briefing and they say, do not touch the local monkeys. And it's funny because they say that if you touch a monkey, like let's say you pet it, you end up getting herpes on the part that you touch them with. So obviously if you get close enough to pet a wild monkey, you might get herpes on your hand. So one joke that I always remember that one of my sergeants said during our briefing. So he goes, man, you get herpes from a monkey? Man, my wife would never believe that. I was fortunate enough to not get tuberculosis or also stomach worms. But one thing that I did catch while I was over there during my second tour was a skin rash, like a real bad skin rash. It started on my leg. I didn't know what it was at first. And I went to the doctor, but going to a military doctor, it's like doing nothing. So during that situation, I had to just wait it out and then wait till I returned back to my home station. But even at my home station, when I made a doctor's appointment just to go see about the whole rash thing, because by the time I got to my home station, the rash was on both of my legs and it went up my back and also it went over my chest. It started going through my arms and also on my armpits. Fortunately, it wasn't in my general area or in my backside, so I knew it wasn't like some kind of STD or anything like that, but it was a whole skin rash. So the way I took care of that is I flew home to California and I ended up making an appointment with the local clinic, and they just gave me some antibiotics and it was gone just like that. And you would think, if it was that easy, why wouldn't I have been treated by a military doctor? So the picture I'm trying to depict in my story is obviously the reality of what really goes on other than what you see in the movies. Yes, unfortunately, suicide is a common thing with veterans. Rest in peace to all my brothers and sisters in arms who unfortunately took that route. There's certain things besides trauma from war that can mess with your psyche to cause mental issues. And as I mentioned, this is just one aspect of mental issues that can be caused or brought up while you're in the military. Because let's be honest, for those of you right now who are watching this video, who are a part of the 93, the 94, the 95% of the United States population who have never served, let's be real. Have you heard any veteran talking to you about these crazy pills that we have to take while we're serving in Afghanistan? What type of knowledge do you have about it? Because before I joined the military, I didn't know anything about this. And it's mandatory to take all this medication or you get kicked out if you decide not to do it. And let's say you don't get kicked out. You can be one of those guys who catch malaria over there, and then all of a sudden you get sent home in a casket because you pooped your guts out just because you didn't want to take the pill. Fortunately, those pills didn't have a long-term effect on me. Obviously, my skin color is okay, and I'm not over here having vivid nightmares of people actually chopping my limbs off. But I heard a lot of people saying that side effects from some medication that we take are affecting them to this day. So that's why I feel that it's so important to bring awareness to mental health, especially for military people. Yes, it's important for everybody, but right now I'm just emphasizing on my military background and stuff that I know from the military. But what do you guys think? What would you have chosen? Would you have chosen to take the mefloquine and write it out, or take the doxy, or maybe not take it at all? What would you guys do? I just really didn't want to risk catching malaria from some mosquito that bit me like 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden I'm feeling nauseous. Because I mean, that's how it happens. You get bit, then suddenly 2 weeks down the road, you start getting sick and you're like, what the hell's happening to me? I just didn't want to be in that boat. So obviously I decided to take the pills, and that's exactly what happened to me. So what do you guys think about the story? Have you guys ever heard about these medications? And have you guys ever heard of medications giving you that type of side effects? For me, it was just a crazy journey. However, I'm happy that it happened at the beginning of my career, during my first deployment, because I did serve 4 tours, but I was already prepared from the beginning of my career to know what to expect during future tours. Hopefully, this helped you out a little bit to understand just a little bit more on what military people have to deal with on a daily basis. Because being in the military isn't battling Transformers or helping Captain America beat up some aliens or something like that. We're actually putting every aspect of our bodies on the line just to fight this war. And obviously, since we had to take care of our physical, we also had to take care of our mental state to just be healthy. Mental health awareness is extremely important. A lot of people lose their lives over daily stressors or stuff in the past or whatever problems that life may bring. But one thing that could help and prevent a person from taking their life is to just be there for people. Yes, I know that we all have our responsibilities, we're all adults, but sometimes this thing we call life could just overwhelm a lot of people, whether it be your friends, your family, or just strangers. So let's just make sure that we communicate. If you're suffering with some mental illness, seek help. You are loved and you are important. Don't let anybody make you feel like you're not special. Don't be afraid to seek help. We gotta check on each other, we gotta call each other, and to be honest, we just gotta love each other. Obviously, there's no miracle pill to take away all your problems, but talking and communicating how you feel is basically the first step to your happiness. Shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for everybody who DMs me on Instagram. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you for the likes. I'm appreciative. And that's my story. What do you guys think? Was it weird to hear? Is it something new that you heard of? Have you gone through it? Do you guys like these type of stories? Do you guys prefer funny ones, serious ones? What type of stories do you guys prefer? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much again for spending your time and watching my videos. I'll make sure to drop some more videos for you guys. And I'll be back with random military stories from my time in the military. Thanks.